Because of quarantine, I've been able to watch more movies and TV shows than normal. I decided to check out this Tiger King show that everyone's been talking about, and I think I have an interesting perspective on all this. But before I get into this, I would like to urge you all to follow me on Twitter for political opinions as well as daily Bible quotes. What does the title of this video mean? Obviously, I believe that the only God among men that ever lived was Jesus Christ. It is simply a metaphor to make the point that I think Joe Exotic is an incredibly impressive individual who stands alone against the hate he receives on a daily basis. Now, I can relate to at least half of that, so I think that was why I was able to connect with him so quickly. Now, why does Joe get the hate that he does? Is it because of his political beliefs? Is it because of his sexual orientation? Well, I was shocked to discover that the reason he gets so much hate is because everyone is convinced that he is an animal abuser. Now, why do people believe this? From what I've gathered, there are two main arguments being made. One is the fact that he owns tigers at all qualifies him as an animal abuser, because some people believe that even having a tiger in captivity is depriving them of their essential needs. Now, there is a small grain of truth in this. Tigers have been raised in captivity, will for the most cases be stuck in captivity for the rest of their lives. They cannot be released into the wild. These tigers have been fed their entire lives, and it's reasonable to assume that most of them would not be able to adequately hunt the amount of food they need to survive if they were to be released. The effect of growing up in captivity has made them less in touch with their primal instincts. But I disagree with this point, namely because Joe wasn't planning on releasing them into the wild. If Joe had raised them in captivity and then decided to release them impromptu with no warning, I would classify that under animal abuse. And I don't think it's animal abuse to breed animals in captivity, especially an endangered species. Why are people not praising Joe Exotic for increasing the number of tigers in the world? Isn't that the moral thing to do for a species that is going extinct before our very eyes? And the second argument is that he murdered 5 tigers in his zoo. Now, where's the evidence for this accusation? Now, I will admit the evidence looks pretty bad for Joe. 5 tiger skeletons were found on the property, and Joe admits that he killed the tigers, but his defense was that they were sick. Basically, euthanizing a suffering animal is equal to poaching a wild, healthy, endangered tiger. This is in the minds and hearts of the people involved in PETA. Now, I think people were really just jealous of what Joe Exotic had accomplished, and they wanted to take it from him. There is more evidence that Carol Baskin murdered her husband than Joe Exotic abused any animals. Joe Exotic is a true American, typical rags to riches story, and Carol Baskin saw a threat. She sued Joe Exotic for over $1 million because he was a competitor, and the court sided with her because Obama appointed hundreds of liberal judges all over this great country. Why is it that Carol Baskin is allowed to own tigers but Joe can't? And whenever you watch the documentary, you can clearly see that the conditions at her zoo are not as good as the ones at Joe's. Carol Baskin's cages are small and the whole area is covered in foliage. If Joe Exotic abused his animals, then so does Carol Baskin. If Carol Baskin is the Pharisees, then Jeff Lau is Judas. Jeff betrayed Joe and set him up in order to gain financially. Every word that comes out of Jeff's mouth is a lie, and if he makes a claim about Joe, I'm inclined to believe the opposite. Joe was framed by Jeff and his ilk. I don't even believe he offered Alan any money to do a hit on Carol Baskin. And even if he did, Joe was just fooling around. He didn't actually want Alan to kill Carol. Of course, Joe wanted Carol dead, but to suggest that he would actually attempt to cause her real-world harm, I think is ludicrous. Joe Exotic is an American hero. He stood up to injustice and evil. And how was he repaid? He was locked in a cage like an animal. I'm calling on Mr. Trump to pardon Joe Exotic. Now, I understand the chances of Mr. Trump watching this video are less than 0. And I wouldn't want him to be watching any of my videos anyway. He's got more important things to do with his time. All I'm saying is I want to start spreading this idea. So hopefully it eventually gets to Mr. Trump. That way we can finally have some justice in this world. Hashtag pardon Joe Exotic. Thank you all for watching. I thought I'd make a quick video in support of Joe Exotic. I'd recommend watching Tiger King if you haven't already. And, if you're not subscribed, please. I've got tons of videos like this and I upload daily. And to anybody that watched this entire video, I want you to know that I really appreciate it. I don't take it for granted. Thank you.